Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I have a good snooze.
He had a good snooze. It wasn't a very long one today.
I'm Dylan.
And you're Dylan, yes. So Dylan's going to help me do a shout out. I have a shout out for Kasaira. Last week when we did this web that you see here behind Dylan about our family.
And these are hearts.
They are hearts. Kasaira's mom took a picture of her work and sent to me through the dojo. So I'm going to share, this is the web that she made. So I'm going to share that. So for Kasaira's family, she said that her mom is nurturing. Jemiah is caring and loving. Kadeem is smart. And Jamori is helpful. And Jalea is sweet and silly.
Kitty's scratching me.
Oh, Kitty. Is Kitty playing?
Uh-huh.
Yay, Kasaira. Dylan, can you help me cheer Kasaira for doing her writing well? Yay. Good job, Kasaira.
Kitty likes to say hi.
Kitty might want to come say hi, too.
Meow, hi. He say hi, just pretend he talks.
Yeah. All right. Are you going to help Mommy more, or are you going to go play with Daddy while I do writing?
You too, Reggie.
Okay. Go ahead. Thank you for helping to cheer Kasaira on and give her a shout out. All right. So, like we were just saying last week, we did a web about our family, and then we wrote a paragraph about our family here. Oh, wait. What did I do with it? Not sure where I put that. But, any of the kids in my class, if you're still finishing that up, feel free, even though we're moving on to something else, feel free to still send me your web, send me your paragraphs that you wrote. And if you are ready to move on to the next writing assignment that we're going to do, I am going to refer back to the book we read this morning for our Read Aloud called Zinnia's Flower Garden by Monica Wellington. So I thought we would kind of use this book as a mentor text to help us get our writing started. And to be honest, we're not going to do a whole lot of writing today. We're just going to kind of get some ideas out. So I was thinking we would write a how-to paragraph. So an informative paragraph telling your readers who are reading your work how do you do something, all right? So step by step. So for instance, we're going to use Zinnia's Flower Garden, and we're going to go through step by step what she did to plant her garden. So kind of like a how to plant a garden. And while we're going through this, I want you to pay attention to the transition words. You could hear them called transition words, signal words, temporal words that show the order of steps that Zinnia is doing. So I'm just going to talk about it first, and then we'll go back through and we'll talk about the transition words that I used. I'll write those on sentence strips, and I'll put those up so that you have them to refer to as you are having conversations at home about how to do something. And parents, I would also suggest putting the transition words on the word wall. We have a few of them on our word wall at school, and as I start going through Zinnia's Flower Garden and using those words, the kids might be like, oh, I remember that word. So when I say transition word, signal word, temporal words, those words are a little bigger, and they sometimes look at me like, what are you saying? And then when I give them an example, they're like, oh, yeah. So in Zinnia's Flower Garden, so I'm just going to, we did a read aloud this morning. If you haven't seen it yet, I encourage you to go back and look in the Just for Fun read alouds and watch as Dylan and I went through and read Zinnia's Flower Garden this morning. So I am seeing, and I did a picture walk this morning, and I'm going to use the pictures to retell the story, which is another way we read the book. So in class, there's 3 ways to read a book. You can read the words. If it's a book that maybe is above your level, your reading level, and you can't read the words, you can read the pictures. And I encourage the kids that if it's a book that you've heard Mrs. Hill read out loud, or if we've done it, in shared reading or whatever, and you're still struggling with all of the words, you can also retell the story. If you already know the story, you can use the pictures to go through and retell it. So, sorry, let me silence my phone here. All right, so this is Zinnia, and the first thing I see that she's doing to plant her flower garden, so first, she is digging the soil. So she digs up the soil and turns it over so that it's ready for planting. So that is first. Second, I see that she is planting the seeds in the soil. So we had first, she digs up the soil. Second, she plants the seeds. So think right now about any transition or temporal words. And if you're still like, What is a transition temporal signal word? Well, I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to write these on sentence strips. Get my scissors here, so I'll cut these apart then. So one transition word that I used was first. So first, I said, Zinnia digs up the soil and turns it over so that it's ready for planting. So that is the first thing she does. And after that, I said, second, she plants the seeds in the soil. So my next transition word would be what? Second. So we're using these transition words today to kind of just talk through a process or how to do something. In this case, it's how to plant the garden. Okay. So first, she digs up the soil. Second, she plants the seeds. Okay. Now I'm going to skip ahead here a little bit to show what she's doing to make her flowers grow. So she dug in the soil, she planted the seeds. Then she waters her garden to make the flowers grow. So what was the transition or signal word that I used there? When I say then, she waters the garden to make the plants grow. So the signal word would be then. And let's see what else she does. All right, so her flowers, oh, look, one of the buds has bloomed. All right. So her flowers, so we could say that next her flowers start to bloom, right? So what would my transition word be there? There's Kitty's tail. Next her flowers start to bloom or a bud appears. My transition word would be next. So they start to bloom, and look, her garden is full grown, and then she's able to pick her flowers and make the bouquet. So if this is going to be our last step, that her flowers have bloomed and now she can pick them, in our class we like to use, there's two transition words that we could use. There's lastly and finally, and the kids really seem to like using finally. This is what happens. So that will be our last transition word. Oops, capital F, because this is going to be the beginning of my sentence. Actually, here, let's do this. And I'll cut that part off. Finally. Okay. So finally, her flowers have fully bloomed, and Zinnia is able to pick them to create a bouquet. So what I encourage you to do today, like I said, not really a lot of writing in our writing lesson today, but I encourage you to use these transition words, and they do not have to go in this order. So we have first, second, then, next, finally. You could also use, you could do first, second, third. You could use after that. So there are different transition words that you can use. These are the ones that I just used as I was retelling Zinnia's flower garden and how she planted her garden, so the steps that she followed. So I want you to think about something that you're good at, something that you are good at that you could teach others how to do. So I'm thinking, just because I made Dylan a peanut butter and jelly sandwich for lunch today. So I might think, I'm really good at making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches because I make them every day for Dylan's lunch. So I might want to tell the steps that you go through to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So my how-to paragraph would be how to make a PB&J, peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So first, I get out everything I'll need: the bread, the jelly, the peanut butter, and a knife, and a plate to put the sandwich on. And so then I'm just going to go through and I'm going to talk that out to someone at home, saying what I would do, and also saying those transition words to signal my steps that I would take. Okay? So if you are able to have those conversations at home today and you want to text me anything in the dojo, tell me about what your child is thinking about doing their writing on and what they would like to explain how to do, feel free to do that. And I guess I will see you tomorrow for our Read Aloud. Have a great night.